Friday and welcome to Social Hour, hosted by me, Kelsey. You may know me as Sociallykels. I am a 23-year-old self-taught entrepreneur and content creator helping you thrive in the online world. Here at Social Hour, we talk about all things business, social media, finances, mindset, and more. Grab your coffee, your tea, beer, wine, whatever floats your boat, and enjoy Social Hour with Sociallykels. I have some red wine today because I'm celebrating my very first podcast episode and it's Friday evening as I'm filming this, so it just seems right. Okay, so this is my first podcast episode and I am extremely excited for this. I really love talking, so this is a dream come true for me. For my first episode, I really wanted this to be a solo show, just you and me, and I'm actually a huge podcast listener myself. I find a lot of value in actually hearing other entrepreneurs' stories, and I don't just mean their business story, but actually life stories, like how they grew up, what they were doing before, what their parents were like, all of it. So I thought I'd do that for my first episode. I'm basically going to take you through my life story. So from my childhood, growing up, to hardships, to starting my business, I'm going to take you guys through it all. Let's get into it. Let me take a sip of wine before we get into it. This is going to be fun. All right. So I was born in 1998 and I grew up in the suburbs about an hour from Vancouver, Canada. My parents had me at a very young age. They were 18 and hadn't been together long when they got pregnant with me, but they decided to get married and commit to raising me. Less than 2 years later, they were married and had my sister, Alyssa. So now we were a family of 4, extremely young parents, obviously. We did not have a ton of money. The funny thing about that is, though, I had absolutely no idea that we didn't have a lot of money. My mom is a high school dropout and she was waitressing, working multiple jobs while having 2 kids under 2 years old. And my dad was in trade school to become a plumber. Alyssa and I were really close growing up. I mean, we shared a room, so obviously we were like little besties. Everyone always thought we were twins. We had a lot of fun. We played outside every day. And like I said, we never knew if there was any stress about money as young kids. That's something that I have always admired about my parents, that they never made money a stress for us kids. They raised us to be very respectful and we never asked for anything, but we were just happy with what we had, honestly. And when I was 9, my parents had my other sister, Cameron, and 3 years later had my brother, Kason. So now we are a family of 6, and my mom was selling car insurance and working her way up the ladder in the car industry, and my dad was plumbing. So, we were doing a little bit better. As I said earlier, my siblings and I never asked for anything, which is completely true, except for dance classes. My mom put me in a ballet class when I was 3 and I was just hooked. I loved dancing. I loved my dance classes. And if you know anything about dance, you know that it's not a cheap activity to do. Again, my parents were amazing and never showed us kids any stress around money. And if there was any, we didn't know until one year. Just after my brother was born and my dad said, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to pay for your dance classes this year. We're kind of struggling. And I was surprised. I had never had to think before about that sort of thing. I was like, okay, yeah, I understand. I mean, I was 12 at this point, so I understood. And my mom just says, oh, hell no, do not say that. You're getting your dance classes. I will find a way. And my dad was like, what are you saying? We have a mortgage and 4 kids. We can't afford it. But my mom said, nope, sign them up. We're going to figure it out. This is a core memory for me. Looking back, it makes so much sense how I am the way I am. And I feel like a lot of it goes back to this moment. My parents didn't have a lot, but bet your ass they would do anything to make sure we got our dance classes and our yearly family road trip to Oregon. I'll get back to the story in a second, but I really just want to make the point here that I very much grew up believing that if you want something, there's a way, no excuse. If you don't have the money for it, find it. If you don't have the time for it, make time. No matter what, there was a way. Okay, so back to the story. My mom started looking anywhere for an opportunity to make more money, and she ended up getting herself and my dad signed up for a network marketing company. A lot of people might say that wasn't the smartest thing because network marketing companies have a startup cost, and they're sort of known for the fact that not many people actually make real money at it. But my mom went into this thinking there is no option for fail. We need money. I'm doing this. This is it. And you guys, I need another sip of wine for this. You guys, they fucking killed it. They killed it. I was 12 and I was basically a full-time mom raising my siblings who were babies at this point while my parents were out every night building this business while working full-time jobs. They built this network marketing business so big and so quick. They were like the superstars of this company. I would go to conventions with them sometimes and people would treat them like celebrities. They would come up to me like, wait, you're Carrie and Dwayne's daughter? Oh my God, like, can I get a picture with you? And I was like, what is happening? Like, what are you talking about? Like, guys, my mom met Donald Trump. I can't make this up. I swear to God, my mom has a photo shaking Donald Trump's hand. Like, this whole thing was basically a fever dream looking back. But being exposed to that environment and those sort of people at that age, I think it really helped shape the entrepreneurial side of me. I didn't necessarily ever feel like network marketing was going to be what I do, but I loved being around all the people who strived for financial freedom and building something to create the life that they wanted. Anyway, sadly, that company ended up being shut down after about 2 years because the owner sadly passed away and it sort of just crumbled from there. This was devastating for my parents. I mean, they put everything into this. They put so much time into it. They worked so hard to build their way up and it was just gone. So it ended up being back to their regular jobs and working really hard at that. And they were still able to give my siblings and I fantastic childhoods. I mean, they worked really hard to work their way up in their respected industries. I have so much respect for them for how hard they worked for us. Because all this time, obviously, I was dancing and I love dancing. It was my first love, my biggest passion. I was obsessed, you could say. If I wasn't at school or dance class or babysitting my siblings, well, usually I would actually do this while babysitting my siblings. I would be stretching, strengthening, working on new cool moves off YouTube that my teachers at dance class weren't teaching me yet. I always had been that type of person that if I want to learn something, if I want to be great at something, I will go find a way and do it myself. Like, oh, my dance teachers aren't teaching me this yet? Okay, let me just go home and YouTube it and learn it myself. And then I'll come back tomorrow and show them what I could do. So that was my vibe for like my whole life. I ended up getting moved up to dance with some girls that were a few years older than me. And that was like my life dream. And I did a lot of competitive dance all throughout my childhood and high school. When it came to school, I mean, I missed a lot of school for dance. And if you grew up in competitive dance, you know that was really a normal thing. But I got good grades, not necessarily because I was smart. Okay, I was not book smart at all. Okay, I got good grades because I cared about doing well at everything I do, but I never actually could grasp the concepts I was learning. I would just memorize what I had to memorize to get a good grade on the test. I went through school always feeling stupid, honestly, because I never felt I was understanding anything. But I was getting decent grades, so no one ever really knew that I wasn't smart, maybe. I don't know how to explain that, but it was a strange feeling. I always felt like, oh, I'm not very smart, but who cares? Which is completely untrue. Like now I know I am a very smart person. I'm very intelligent, but at that point, I just didn't know how to properly learn, I guess, if that makes sense. I wasn't learning in a way that worked for me. So anyways, I got decent grades, but only because I felt like I wanted to feel like I was doing well at everything. Not because I necessarily had any sort of academic goals. Never once for 1 second of my life did I plan or even think about going to college or any sort of post-secondary, honestly, because I was going to be a dancer. I never wanted to be anything else. I never thought about anything else, no backup plan. I didn't care. So I auditioned for a pre-professional training company downtown Vancouver during my grade 12 year to do after I graduated. I was so nervous that I wasn't going to get in that I actually went to multiple auditions in multiple cities to give myself a better shot at getting into the program because, like I said, there was no backup plan. Like, this was it. All my other friends were applying to schools and everything, and I was like, nope, I'm a dancer. This is it. I ended up getting in, and I was elated. I thought, my life is made. Here I go. So I graduated high school in June of 2016, and I was ready to start my professional dance career, you know, my training with my program, and I could not have been happier. I actually got my first paid dance job that summer before I started the training program. I was dancing in a parade at the big fair in Vancouver. That was a few weeks of my summer. I was getting paid to dance. I was on top of the world, you guys, okay? And my younger sisters were also dancing in this fair. They were in a different show than me. My sister Alyssa was getting paid like me, doing a big girl dance job. It was really exciting. And my little sister Cameron was 9 at the time, and she was actually part of this like junior cast. It was super cute. She was also dancing with Alyssa in her show. So one day at the fair, while my sister Cameron was getting her costume on, we noticed she had a ton of bruises all over her. And we were like, okay, strange. But I mean, she's a 9-year-old girl. She's a dancer. She's playing around with her friends at summer or whatever. Alyssa had a really weird feeling about it. My mom had a really weird feeling about it. And strange enough, we happened to be really close to the Children's Hospital in Vancouver because that's where we were at the fair. After we were done dancing that day, we stopped in the emergency room of Children's Hospital, not thinking this was an emergency at all, have you? It was just the closest medical center to us. And there was tons of kids there, okay, like screaming, kids with broken arms. We were thinking, oh God, we're going to be here a while before they see Cameron, but whatever, we're here. You guys, the doctors took one look at Cameron and we skipped ahead of the entire line, the entire emergency room. They brought us in so quickly, ahead of kids that were screaming in pain with broken arms. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But I tend to be an optimistic person. So I was just like, whatever, I don't know what this is. They immediately take her blood and do some tests. They have her blowing bubbles, just being like good children's hospital doctors. And they took my mom out of the room to talk to her. My mom comes in a few minutes later and she was holding this water bottle. And I just remember the water bottle shaking so much in her hand that it was going to spill. And I just got like this stomach ache. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? The doctors took Alyssa and I out of the room and sat us down and he said it in a really strange way. He said, so we took your sister's blood and we saw some signs. A lot of times kids with blood like hers have leukemia, like blood cancer. And Alyssa just starts immediately freaking out. I'm sitting there like, okay, well, she doesn't have cancer. He said, kids like her sometimes have cancer. I'm just like immediately the type of person to go into denial in this sort of situation. So my mom and Alyssa are crying, freaking out. And I just knew right away, okay, I got to be the one to keep it together here. We can't go back into the room where Cameron is and scare her. She's 9 years old. So I go back into Cameron's room and very calmly let her know that she's going to have to stay at the hospital tonight. They need to do more tests. She's not going to be able to dance at the fair tomorrow. And that's when she immediately just started crying because she wanted to dance and she was upset that she couldn't perform. So Alyssa and I go home to stay with my brother. My dad comes to the hospital. The whole way home, I'm like yelling at Alyssa to stop crying and stop putting bad vibes into the universe. She doesn't have cancer. This is just dramatic. Stuff like this doesn't happen to us. Later that night, we got the confirmation 100%, yes, she has cancer. It was acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And that was it was shattering. I can't explain what that felt like. Up until this point in my life, you could even say, I would say my life was perfect. Nothing bad had ever happened to me or my loved ones. It was just heartbreaking. My 9-year-old sister had cancer and I was just angry. It was unfair. I felt like it should have been me. I'm the oldest. She's just a kid. It was a lot. I still started my dance program a few weeks later. I think really it ended up being only a few days later. And I was living in the hospital with Cameron and my mom, taking the bus to and from dance class, just trying to be at the hospital as often as I could. And that was hard for me. I had just graduated high school. That's a huge change. Then starting this new dance program, something that I was excited for, felt now almost like a chore. And I sort of felt like I wish I didn't have to go because I wanted to be with my sister. Also, through all of this, I was also going through a breakup with my high school boyfriend. Unfortunately, he was just really unsupportive during this whole time and was kind of adding a lot of stress onto me on top of my sister being sick and everything. So that was just a lot. I think in those months is where I kind of stopped loving dance as much. It was something that was taking away from the time with my sister and my family. And I felt like I really need to be there for them and I really needed to help them. So now it's January 2017 and I honestly was in an awful place mentally. My sister's sick. My family's half living at the hospital, half at home. I went through this breakup. I'm trying to get the most out of my dance program, but I was just sad. So January 2017, my current boyfriend, Anson, who I hadn't met yet, he was just friends of my friends. He replied to my Snapchat story one day of me painting and asked what I was painting. Let me tell you, even in my happiest times, I'm not one to entertain boys or reply to them sliding into my DMs or Snapchat or anything like that. I was really quite uninterested in relationships my whole life. I never had crushes on boys. Like my one high school relationship, that was pretty much it. And even that was like not very great. But especially right now where I was at, I was not looking for anything. But for some reason, I replied to him and we got to talking. He took me on a date and I'm talking like a proper date, guys. Okay. I've never experienced something like this in my life. He came to my house. He knocked on my front door, shook hands with my dad, opened the car door for me, drove me to dinner, opened the restaurant door for me. We had the most lovely time. We talked for hours. He was a perfect gentleman. We had so much fun, like got along right away. He drove me home. He didn't make any moves. And I was done. I was done. In that moment, I was like, yep, I'm done. Like, that's my husband. That's it. I was obsessed with him. I fell in love with him really quickly. We started dating and we both fell in love really quickly. He made me really happy during all of this. It was almost like a drug. That sounds bad. But when I was with him, I was so happy and I always wanted to be around him because he made me so happy. And on my own at that point, like I was not happy, which sounds awful because I think it's like kind of a common quote that everyone says, you know, you have to be happy on your own before you can be happy in a relationship. I kind of did it the other way around. I wouldn't say it's a good thing. I'm in therapy now and we've had to talk through it because it was hard for me then to later in life kind of feel like I could be happy and like mentally stable without him, even though, I mean, he's still here. We're still together like all these years later. You still have to learn how to be happy as an individual if you want to have a healthy relationship. So anyways, he ended up moving in with me in my parents' basement suite about like 3 months into our relationship. Basically, he became part of the family. By the end of 2017, start of 2018, Cameron had made it through her cancer treatment. She was in remission. We were all so happy about that, obviously. I was really happy in my relationship and I got into another professional dance company, which was awesome. I was like, okay, I can kind of start over. I can get back to dancing. I was continuing my training and I was auditioning for a lot of dance jobs. The dance jobs were few and far between. So I ended up getting a part-time job at a restaurant and I was dancing at the same time. Everything was good. Life sort of carried on that way until the end of 2019 when I found out that my parents were having issues. And I'm not going to get into that side of it too much because I would say some of it's not really my story to tell, but all you need to know is that, you know, my parents are having a hard time. They are separated. There's another guy involved who's not a good guy, and that's been really hard for me, but I'm going to leave that kind of stuff out of it. Yeah, this was hard for me because, you know, like growing up, my parents, my family, if you knew us, we were like, our family was perfect. My parents were perfect. They were so in love. They were amazing. So that was a really big shock to me. I didn't see it coming. I was really, really caught off guard. And that was a really hard time for me. But what really sent it all over the edge was when we were told Cameron had relapsed at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. This was devastating in a whole new way. We knew exactly what was coming this time. So if you've ever had someone really close to you battle cancer, you know how ugly it is and how much there is to it that most people can't even imagine. There's so much more to it than just like, oh, they go bald and they feel sick. There's so much to it. And this time we knew what we were getting into. Cameron knew what she was getting into. She's a little bit older this time. And we knew her treatment last time didn't work. So obviously this time it's going to be a lot harder. She needed a bone marrow transplant this time, which is a huge deal. Months in the hospital, it was a lot to take in. So at this point, Cameron is sick again. My parents are not good. They're fighting. Things were quite awful at home. Anyways, we were all gearing up for Cameron's bone marrow transplant. None of us family members ended up being matches for her, unfortunately, but by some miracle, we ended up finding a 100% match for her in Europe. So that was the plan. That's what we were doing. So to get prepared for a bone marrow transplant, there's a lot of things that you have to do to your body to get ready for it. Really intense chemo, radiation, tons of other medications, tests. So that was a lot for Cameron to be going through. But the worst of it was a few weeks before the transplant, COVID hits. So now not only is Cameron wiped clean right now, she has zero immune system, like negative immune system at this point. There's also a pandemic going on. So she's in like danger. She was already going to be stuck in the hospital for a while, but this just like really stuck in even more. She's going to be in there without leaving even her room. It's not like she could even walk around the hospital. It's like her one hospital room that was cut off from the rest of the hospital. None of us could visit her except for my parents who had to stay with her. And they had to clean everything in the hospital room daily. So all her pencil crayons, her blankets, her clothes, everything needed to be sterilized and washed daily. It was intense. Then one day, right before the bone marrow transplant, the doctors tell us that because of the pandemic and how bad it was over in the area where her donor was, they weren't going to be able to get the 100% match. I could not believe it. Like just the luck of this, the bad luck of this, her relapsing and then a pandemic hits. I was like, what the hell is going on in the world? What else could go wrong? Like, how? The next best thing we have was Alyssa, who was a 50% match. Not good. And I was actually the one that had to break the news to Alyssa that she had to do this. And Alyssa just started, crying, screaming. She just felt a lot. She felt like if this doesn't work, she's going to feel responsible for her sister not making it. It was awful. So we started to move forward with Alyssa as the donor because it was our only option. But the staff at Children's Hospital, the doctors at Children's Hospital are like no other. They are amazing. They will do anything for these kids. They were looking at any other option. They got creative. Usually they have to have somebody from the hospital fly over to Europe, get these donor cells, and have that with them and come back to the hospital. That's protocol. That's what had to happen. Because of the pandemic, they couldn't send anyone over there. So instead, they thought we could have somebody from Europe send the donor cells to us and have them just frozen and unattended and hope that when they get here, they're still alive and still cold and still viable. And we said, obviously, yeah, we have to try. So we said, yes, let's do it. By a miracle, the cells arrived here in Canada and they were completely viable. They said, okay, we can go ahead with this. And we were like, yes, oh my gosh, amazing. We were so grateful for that. For the next few months during the transplant and the recovery and the pandemic, I was home taking care of my brother because my parents were living in the hospital. I had been laid off all my jobs. Dance was canceled. I was in a really low place, honestly. I was Zoom schooling my brother, helping him homeschool, making his meals. My parents and Cameron were in the hospital. My boyfriend was obviously living with me, but he still had his full-time job that he was working normally. And I just felt like a zombie. I'm sure everyone else can relate to this in the pandemic. If you got laid off and everything, every day was the same. I just felt awful. I was dwelling a lot. Is Cameron going to be okay? What's going to happen with my parents? What am I going to do with my life? At this point, I'm 4 years out of high school and dance wasn't really happening, obviously because of the pandemic. But even apart from that, I wasn't making money with dance. And I kind of started to want more. I used to think, oh, you know what? Even if dance never works out, I don't care. I'm going to dance forever. I'll just be a waitress and keep auditioning and keep trying. I don't care. But as you get older, I think your goals start to change a bit. At this point, I'm in a long-term relationship. I think about one day wanting to buy a house and being able to hold my own. I want to have my own thing and build my own thing and be proud of myself and have something that I'm proud of. I want to be able to travel when I want. I want to have freedom. If I want to have children one day, I want to, have something that they could be proud of me for. And I feel like all that entrepreneurial energy that I once had sort of started coming back to me. And at this point, I had nothing to lose. I stumbled across a TikTok of a girl talking about social media management. And I was like, that sounds cool. I love social media. I had no idea this was a job. And I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. I started listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, reading books, reading articles, any little mini courses or masterclasses I could find online. I was doing it all. I was trying to learn about social media marketing and social media management. And I basically just decided that I was going to do this. This was going to be it. So October of 2020, I created my Instagram account, Sociallykels, and started posting social media tips and promoting my social media management services to try to get clients, even though I didn't have a lot of, I didn't have a lot of knowledge of what I was doing, but I kind of, like I said, I had nothing to lose and this could be something. I had a good feeling about it. My Instagram was growing quite slowly and I decided it couldn't hurt to hop onto TikTok. I started posting TikToks of my social media tips and it quickly started to gain traction. Within a few weeks of posting my first TikTok, I had my first 2 social media management clients. That was insane to me. I don't know anyone listening that's self-employed, the first time that you make even $1 from your business or someone pays you to do something, the first time making money from not a job or a boss, you did it yourself, is exhilarating, no matter how small it is. I was like, whoa, I did this once. I could do it again. By March 2021, I had 4 or 5 social media management clients full time, plus a wait list of close to maybe 100 people at this point wanting to work with me or interested in working with me. And my following was growing a lot on TikTok. I think at this point I was at around 50,000. So I started getting my first few brand deals. This is when my mind really, really opened. I started this whole Sociallykels thing as a social media manager, but now I have this growing audience and brands are becoming interested and I'm getting a lot of messages from my followers asking how I did this and how they could do the same. And it really made me start thinking bigger. Over the next few months, this is when I started planning out my first course. It was going to be how to be a social media manager. This is because of the amount of people asking me how I did this. And I was like, you know what? I don't really know. I got a lot of information, bits and pieces from everywhere. And I thought, what if I put together a course of what I would have wanted when I started out? Like a step-by-step guide, all the information from all over the internet in one place. That was sort of my mindset. And at this point, I really wasn't thinking about becoming a coach by any means. I wanted to help people and answer these questions that people had, but I didn't want to be a coach or a mentor. So I thought this virtual course was a perfect way to help people without fully transitioning into coaching. So I continued doing social media management and I launched my course and it did okay. I sold about 50 courses over like 3 months. So not bad considering I didn't really do a proper launch. I was getting a lot of good feedback on my course and a lot of my students actually were starting to have like full-blown businesses like quickly after taking my course and were doing really great. And that was like an amazing, amazing feeling. At this point, it was like the beginning of August and I started to feel a little bit of burnout. I was taking on a lot as a social media manager. And at this point, I hadn't outsourced at all. I was doing it all on my own. And I felt really stuck on where to go next. Do I hire people to help me and kind of start an agency? Do I dive into coaching? I'm kind of enjoying this with my course a little bit. But remember, I really didn't want to coach. Like I've been saying, I grew up dancing and everyone used to tell me, why don't you just be a dance teacher? That's a good job involved in dancing. I dabbled in it, but honestly, I hated it. Like I hated teaching. I was bad at it. I felt like I was bad at it. And I love being a student. I've always loved being a student with things that I actually enjoy, like dancing. I love being the one doing the thing, not teaching it. So I assumed I would hate coaching. But something really strange happened. This was like a universe moment, I swear. Within a matter of, I think, a week, all of my current social media management clients ditched me for really random reasons. Like one of them was a very, very new business and they decided to hold off on social media management for a while. The other I had been working with for a long time and they just decided to take a break and do their own social media because they had learned a lot from me. It was all my clients for random reasons, all within a week, were done with me. All the contracts were up. Everyone was like gone. Of course, I had my wait list of like at this point over 100 people. So I could just go and take on more clients. But I sort of had this feeling that this was kind of a really unique chance to transition my business. Like how often do you have an opportunity to kind of start something new when you're in the middle of your business and then all of a sudden you have kind of a blank slate? And remember that I was feeling quite burnt out from social media management. So I was kind of open to change. And I actually at this point decided to hire a business coach. At this point, remember, I had no clients. Instead of taking on new clients because I wasn't making any money now, I decided to use a big chunk of my money to hire a business coach to help me, which was a hard decision to make because it was kind of a decision between, am I going to continue making money and do the safe route, or am I going to kind of take a risk and maybe this will be for the better, but it's risky. If you've ever been in a position as a business owner where you're tight for money and you decide to invest into your business with that little chunk of money that you have, it can be risky, but I just had a gut feeling about it. So August ended up being a really hard month. Obviously, I was basically broke. I felt like giving up. I felt like I didn't know what to do. But my business coach really helped me get a lot clearer of a vision of what I wanted going forward. And she really encouraged me to explore the coaching and consulting route. And I decided to go for it. She helped me revamp and relaunch my original course. And I put out my first coaching offers. And the next month after that, after I launched my course again and my coaching offers, was my best month ever. This was my first 5-figure month. I made just over $10,000. And honestly, like forget the money, that was exciting, but forget the money. I really enjoyed coaching. I felt fulfillment that I never had felt in social media management. I felt a lot more in control of my life and my business. And I was getting amazing feedback and I was seeing my students thriving. And that was a really pivotal moment because I was like, okay, this is where I'm going to hang out for a while. Like, you're not saying I'll never go back to social media management at this point, skipping ahead a bit in the story. I haven't gone back yet. Doesn't mean I never will, but I'm very much a person that believes in like staying where you feel aligned and listening to kind of yourself and your emotions. Could I maybe scale my business faster, maybe make more money or something if I did kind of go the agency route and just hired on a bunch of people and started growing that way? Maybe, but I don't think I would have felt that fulfillment. I don't think I would feel as aligned. And that's what I really am striving for. I think sometimes when you start a business, it's easy to forget why you started. I started this solely because I wanted freedom. I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want someone to have to tell me what to do. I wanted to be able to make not crazy money. Like, I honestly didn't start this to make money. I just wanted to make enough that I could live on my own terms and have freedom in my life. It's crazy how easily you could get caught up in that hustle. And once you start making a little bit, or once you start doing something, you want to take it a step further and take it a step further and take it a step further, which is amazing. It's great to have ambition and want to strive for more, but also remember the fact of why you started. Like, I really just started this because I wanted to do something that I was proud of. I wanted freedom, and I have that. So why would I do something that would make me feel less good for more money? You know what I mean? So that's just a side note there. So now I was really working on my coaching students and creating content for my platforms, because another thing is, the thing that I was really most passionate about was creating content. Like, I love creating content. I didn't even say this earlier in the story, but when I was a kid too, growing up, I was like really into making videos. I have a ton of like YouTube and Facebook videos out there when I was a kid that I made. I was like really creative and I loved making videos. That was something that like maybe I considered a little bit when I was younger, going into maybe something to do with film or editing. I really liked that stuff. So I really love creating content. That was something with my business that I was really enjoying. So I was coaching and I was working on growing my audience and the content creation side of it. I ended up getting signed with an influencer agency, which was super exciting. So I was getting more brand deals and more opportunity to create content. I actually got presented with an opportunity to create content for a new Web3 marketing company, which was really exciting because that's something else I'm interested in that, I mean, I'll get into in other episodes of the podcast. We'll talk a lot about like Web3 and NFTs and crypto and investing. Like, I'm really interested in all that stuff. So the opportunity came to create content for that company. And I was like, amazing, cool, yes. This was like a dream job. It was no social media management or anything. I'm just creating TikToks for them, for their TikTok. I'm in the video, I'm the face of the brand, I'm creating the content. So I said yes, and they've been a long-term client of mine, and I'm now even working closer with them, which I am loving, but that kind of is jumping ahead of the story. But this kind of takes us into 2022, which honestly has been a dream so far. To update, Cameron is still today, about 2 years later, recovering from her transplant. It's not an easy thing. So she's been dealing with a lot of, side effects and things come up, but she has been cancer free since the transplant, which is amazing. She is incredible. She's such a fighter. She's back to dancing. She's back at school. She turns 15 tomorrow, actually. As I'm filming this, tomorrow is her birthday. And I'm just so grateful for her and her health. And she's really an amazing person. And she's just inspired me so much, even though she's so young. It's crazy. Like, life is so good. Since 2022 started, I have been traveling. I've been working really hard. I went to Mexico for 3 weeks. I went to Panama. I'm going to New York, and then I'm going to Florida a little bit after that. I have a lot to look forward to, and everything is going really well. And as for my dance dreams, I still dance about 3 times a week, and I still love it. I actually do have a dance job long term as well as my business. So it's like amazing. I still get to dance. I still get to do my business. I go take class downtown still whenever I can, and I'm really happy. I feel like the fact that I get to create content and help people and work for myself and dance whenever I want and travel whenever I want, I feel like this is a dream. I'm so grateful. Like, I'm just sitting here right now looking at, like, what is my life? What is my life? I can't believe it. It happened so fast too. It's crazy. So I guess that kind of brings us to today, and that's my life story. Really condensed, I guess. Not that condensed. This is pretty not long podcast, but longer than a TikTok. I don't usually do long form content, so this is exciting. Something that I do really want to say and just acknowledge as people are listening to this story is my privilege. I obviously am white and I have white privilege, obviously, but also the fact that I grew up in Canada, a beautiful, free country, and I've never ever had to worry about where my next meal was coming from or if I was going to have a roof over my head. It is absolutely something that I'm grateful for every single day. And especially the fact that I was able to follow my dreams, whether that be dance or starting a business. I was able to do that and know that even if I failed or went broke, I had family and friends who could help me. That is such an advantage that I know not everybody has. I just want to make it known that I am absolutely eternally grateful for the cards that I've been dealt. I guess last words to sum this all up is to not be scared to go for what you want, and don't let hard times get you down too much. It's okay to be down, but even in those darkest times, there's so much potential to do something amazing. You are never stuck. Life goes on and time always heals. Thank you guys so much for listening to my first ever podcast episode. To anyone who follows me on TikTok or Instagram or has ever left me a nice comment or booked a coaching call with me or taken my course or anything, if you have supported me in any way from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I am literally living my dreams because of that. I guess that pretty much wraps up this episode. Be sure to look out for the next episode next Friday. So I'll see you then.